So, let me ask you something. What if I told you that the secret to winning, to really succeeding, actually looks a whole lot like losing? That sounds kind of crazy, I know. But today, we're going to dig into how some of the smartest companies and people on the planet got way ahead by taking a strategic step back.
It really all kicks off with this one wild statement. Just picture it. It's Black Friday, the single biggest, craziest shopping day of the entire year, and a company decides to take out a full-page ad in the New York Times with a giant headline that just says, "Don't buy this jacket." I mean, that's just nuts, right?
But that is exactly what the outdoor brand Patagonia did way back in 2011. They ran this ad, literally telling their own customers not to buy one of their best-selling products. You have to admit, for just about any other company, that would be an absolutely terrible, career-ending move. So what was it? Total business suicide? Or was it somehow an act of pure genius? Well, the most surprising part is that this super modern, gutsy marketing move is actually built on wisdom that's literally thousands of years old.
See, that genius move is a perfect example of something we can call reverse logic. It's this art of getting what you want by doing the complete opposite of what everyone thinks you should do. And believe it or not, this powerful idea comes straight out of ancient philosophy, from the Tao Te Ching.
Yeah, this ancient text basically gives us a kind of secret code for success, and it's all built around these fascinating paradoxes. Things that sound like weaknesses are actually secretly incredible strengths. Just look at how these ancient thoughts line up perfectly with some of the biggest success stories of our time. Let's break a few down. Okay, let's start with this one. Yield to become whole. Sounds a little strange, right? But what it really means is knowing when to give up a little bit of ground now so you can capture the entire territory later. A perfect example? Netflix. I mean, they were the undisputed kings of mailing out those little red envelopes. DVDs were their entire business. But right at the peak of their own success, they chose to yield that massively profitable market and go all in on this risky new thing called streaming long before anyone knew if it would even work. By letting go of the present, they grabbed the entire future. All right, here's another great one. Bend to stay straight. This is all about the hidden power of being flexible instead of being rigidly strong. Because, sometimes the things that seem the strongest are actually the most brittle. I mean, just look at the Golden Gate Bridge. That thing stands up to insane forces. We're talking gale force winds, even earthquakes. And it survives not by being stiff and unmovable, but because it was designed to flex and sway up to 27 feet. That ability to bend is its strength. It bends so it never, ever breaks. But, using this kind of logic, it's not just about business strategy. A lot of the time, the biggest thing holding us back isn't some competitor out there. Nope. It's internal. It's our own ego. That little voice in our head that absolutely hates the idea of yielding, of bending, or, God forbid, admitting that we were wrong. And that leaves us with a really clear choice, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the ego trap. It tells you to be rigid, that you have to be right all the time, that you need to take all the credit. But the other path, the one about staying open, about being humble, that's what lets you adapt and grow. It's the difference between being a brick wall and being a living, learning brain. Now I get it. You might be thinking, okay, this all sounds a little soft, right? Well, what if I told you that getting over your ego has a direct, measurable impact on the bottom line? Just look at this number. That's right, research out of Harvard found that when leaders actually admit their mistakes, when they yield their ego, employee trust goes up by 30%. Humility isn't some fuzzy weakness. It is a cold, hard, strategic asset that builds loyalty and makes a team stronger. So, if yielding is this powerful, what's the ultimate way to use this philosophy? Well, it's a move that can make you pretty much unbeatable. It's winning by simply refusing to play the same game as everyone else. The principle here is so simple, but it's incredibly profound. Don't try to beat your rivals at what they're already doing. Now, change the entire game. Create a brand new one where you're the only one playing.
And just look at these modern masters of it. Tesla didn't hoard its charging tech. It opened its patents to make the whole EV market bigger, putting itself right at the center. Wikipedia gave knowledge away for free, which made it impossible for paid encyclopedias to even exist anymore. And open source projects, they literally gave away the code, And now that code powers most of the internet. They all won by giving something of value away.
Okay, so this stuff is all super fascinating to think about, but how can you actually put it to work in your own life? Let's boil all this ancient wisdom down into a practical toolkit that you can start using like today.
So here's what that toolkit looks like. First, it means knowing when to make a strategic retreat from a fight that's just not worth winning. Second, it's about adopting a good enough for now mindset, so you can get moving instead of being paralyzed by perfection. Third, it's flipping your failures. They're not dead ends, they're fertilizer for your next great idea. And finally, it's about leading invisibly. Give your team the power and let them take the credit. Every single one of these is a way of winning by letting go.
So yeah, it all comes back to this: yield to win. It turns out it's not just some clever philosophical saying. From Patagonia's ad all the way to Netflix's crazy pivot, the proof is absolutely everywhere. This counterintuitive path of yielding and bending and giving, it's not just another option. A lot of the time, it's the most powerful path to victory.
And that really leaves us with one last question to think about. In a world that is constantly screaming at us to push harder, be stronger, and just force our way to the top, what could you achieve by doing the exact opposite? In your job, in your projects, in your life, what amazing things could you gain by choosing to strategically yield?